Jolah? Okay. Just
Yeah,
wanted to make sure I got that right. Okay.
thank you.
Um, so you say Trump is bad
Yeah, I think across the board, every metric, pretty bad. Yeah.
for in what specific metric of what? His immigration policy, his tax policy, his
So
is
a
he
couple of different ways. So the economy right now is shrinking. It was going to be growing at this point if Trump didn't do his unforced error that is the tariffs. He's very stubborn. He's a baby boy. He is angry with the Supreme Court's 9-0 ruling about due process. He hates due process, which is pretty un-American, I think, and also deporting so many innocent people with no due process to El Salvador, I think is pretty disgusting. Locking up college kids for their speech for thought crimes seems pretty authoritarian. Beating up like tourists, for the ICE is doing that more so nowadays, and we're losing revenue from travel by like 20 or 30% reductions from Europe and Canada and other countries around the world. So we're taking a pretty big hit across pretty much every aspect of American society, and manufacturing is going down too. But those are the
okay?
main things right now.
So okay, so let's start with the first your first thing on
Okay.
the economy. So the economy is right now is shrinking for the rich, right? So all your main guys in Wall Street, money is getting transferred to Main Street, which is middle class people that work with their hands are benefiting immensely. The construction industry is there's so much confidence in that market. Yeah, you don't see it in Wall Street, in Main Street. Everybody's like, hell yes, let's go. Billionaires are going to lose money. You speculate on the market, is what it is, your loss. He's trying to benefit the middle class. That is his stated goal of we're going to benefit the middle class by putting these tariffs in. And I think the tariffs are just a negotiating point to get better trade deals. But his stated goal is we're benefiting Americans in the middle class. Your second point,
No, well, let's stay on the
deporting
tariffs
people
really
to
quick. I want to respond to the tariffs. We'll go point by point. Welcome back to Jolah Talks Politics. I'm editing this video right now. Please drop a like, comment, subscribe. I'm live 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week at like 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern time. I don't have a really set schedule, but check for me around those times. You can call in, debate me, have a conversation, or come watch the stream. Thank you for watching. Thank you again. Thank you for everything. Thank you. We're gonna keep on fighting this good fight. So for the tariffs, right now, the input costs for businesses are going up. So the materials they need. If you look at 2008 and also 2020, like COVID, big businesses had enough money and resources to withhold the economic turmoil. Small businesses die from the tariffs. The middle class is affected. Companies right now are going to be cutting workers all across the country if this continues. Probably at recessionary levels, manufacturing included, because it's not going to make any money for them to be in business anymore in America. The tariffs are a tax on Americans and American businesses. There's no economic theory that says the level of tariffs that are here right now would work. Maybe 10% across the board would be fine. I still think that's a bad thing because it'll tax working class Americans more than anyone. But yeah, Wall Street is gonna eat from this. They're gonna be in a huge beneficiary position. And Trump, by the way, Google this later. He's meeting with like Walmart and Target and Apple, all of his big donors. He's meeting with them to give them exemptions. The small businesses are not gonna get exemptions. That did not have millions of dollars to give to his campaign. And also the final point, they cannot both be negotiating tactics and good for the middle class. And also they said it's good for revenue. And also, they said it's going to be like, it's going to bring back manufacturing. It cannot be all of these things. They're conflicting points. So all these arguments do not make like logical sense. We don't have to stay too long on it, but I would just say like try to find an economic analysis I mean, that's not even the best argument, but I just, in my opinion, if the trade is messed up, there's ways to do it that you can do without collapsing the economy, without that actually makes the people that are rich from the trade deals pay for bringing back American manufacturing through subsidies like the Biden CHIPS Act. I probably would support, but everything else about the tariffs is really bad.
So let me get this straight. So you just brought up the Biden's CHIP Act. So Biden's CHIP. So tariffs are not a tax on Americans. They're a tax on companies that are importing to America.
Yeah, but sales taxes are too. Like sales tax are taxes on the company. Technically, like it could still be. It's a transaction tax.
For sure, but it's a tariff is a tax on the person that's importing the product. So I import a lot of stuff from China, and tariffs do not affect the price that I pay, right?
No.
I can't physically give them money, right?
Give who money?
I can't give money to the U.S. government.
But they added on, like, so China, for example, if a company imports it, they're gonna charge whatever the import cost is, and like I would also reference that 88%.
Exactly. So you're gonna go get your product from somewhere else.
88% of small businesses import products, but the tariff is 10% across the board for every country. So there's still a 10% tariff, even if it's not 154% or whatever it is from China. And if they're going to get it from somewhere else, it's going to be more expensive somewhere else. So small businesses are going to die from this that have very small margins.
No, they're not.
88% of small businesses import from somewhere. They have import materials.
For sure, 100%. Why? So if as a business, if I'm looking at it like, there's competition in that market, those people that are trying to import stuff, they're going to find the cheapest option that has the best margins, and they're going to import the cheapest product. So the people that are trying to import they're going to keep lowering their prices and keep going into their profit margins until they can move their product. Nobody wants product just sitting there. So if everybody across the board has a 10% fee, great. That's awesome. The market is fair. Everybody has, and that's all Trump's trying to do.
That's tax on American businesses that import that stuff, though. It's still 10% tax across the board on anything else, too. And, like, China is the cheapest place to get this stuff at. You can love it or hate it, but also, like, right now, look at shipping from China. It reduced by 40% or 50% from China. But that means we're going to have a material... No, that's not good, because our economy is tied to China in such a way that we're going to have a material shortage in America, enough to create a Great Depression if this continues. Like, I'm not even... we cannot get out of this without, like, long-term planning.
You're not even close. You're so far off. Like, you're so far out into whatever, and thinking that Americans don't have the resources here. We do.
We objectively don't. We just do not.
We don't
I'm sorry.
need China. We don't need China.
We do. We in our current makeup, we do. How long do you think it takes to make one factory, for example, up and running, like a battery factory or a semiconductor factory? How many years?
Elon Musk built his gigafactory in Texas in like a year. So
those are not complete. Okay, it takes 3 to 5 years to get a factory up and actually operational. Okay, to move an entire supply chain, it takes a 5 to 10 year investment. So when we talk about, like, for example,
I'm building a dairy factory, and it's about a year.
We're talking about mass level manufacturing, though. It's not the same as a dairy factory.
This is a dairy that processes 8 million gallons every 24 hours.
But we're talking about like for cars, for example, like a supply chain for cars will be at like 8 different points. You're not going to move the entire supply chain in one day. It's going to be much more expensive. And by the way, here's the big thing too. If you're going to have tariffs that change every day based on the president's mood, because he's so moody and he has so many tantrums, and like it's more about like an ego battle to him. If it's going to change every day, if it's going to change every day, investors are just going to withdraw their money because they know it's a temporary policy. They'll wait 1, 2, 3, 4 years if they really need to, because they're not going to take the hit. So if Trump's going to keep on changing it, and if he's going to say it's going to go down, you need actual long-term policies, because these investments are made in like 5 or 10 year windows. It's not going to be just like, oh, I teleported my factory this year to America. I'm just saying the simple economics of it.
For sure, but America has chip manufacturers in the United States. America has every manufacturing that China has. They just do it 50 times cheaper than we do.
We're not at operational capacity right now. We are not. It'll take us 10 years to get anywhere near operational capacity for chips, and maybe even more. Like, we just started manufacturing chips. China's been doing that.
What about Intel?
And Taiwan. Yeah, but Intel is just moving more factories here from the Chips and Science Act. I know Trump's bragging about it, but it's the Chips and Science Act. These are all new announcements. They're not going to be operational until 2028 at the earliest. 4 years. We'll be in a Great Depression with these policies by then.
Look in Idaho. When is that one supposed to open?
I don't know the exact date of every single factory in America.
There's a freaking one of the biggest chip plants in Idaho that's going to open in like 2026. I think it's summer of 2026. So if you, in America, we have everything we need. We have rare earth minerals. Look at the Salton Sea. What did they find? Just like a shitload of minerals in there? Yeah, we haven't been able to process it. We're dealing with Australia. America will be so fine without China.
Okay, well, that's why the market's crashing, and also that's why the American dollar is becoming weak, and our bond market is really messed up because companies are abandoning, or countries are abandoning America. Companies are abandoning America because we're not a stable country right now.
No, we're stable. We're the most stable country.
Okay, so with rare earth minerals, by the way, we're 100% import dependent for 12 critical minerals, and we're 50% dependent for an additional 29 out of 50 identified critical minerals. The only minerals, like 5 out of 50 critical minerals we are sufficient for. We rely on imports for approximately 80% of our rare earth element consumption. China is the dominant supplier. Then we have like Taiwan, but China provides 56. China provides 56% of U.S. rare earth imports. I want you to understand, like, this is going to crash the American economy to Great Depression levels if these policies maintain. I'm just saying, like, you can disavow it all you want, but it's basic fact. I don't know what I can do to convince you. I don't know what I can say except to see reality. Trump's going to retreat on these because he knows it's going to kill the economy. Hopefully, actually, I hope he keeps it in place so people see what the reality is. I'm going to be honest. At this point, keep the tariffs in place. Let the American people see how disastrous this shit is. But yeah, I don't know what else I could say to you. Like, I don't know. You need actual like plans. You can't just have okay, on that point alone, when companies are making a 10-year investment, 5-year investment, do you see what I mean when I say through executive order, through the president's actions, it's not good to do like a tariff policy that can change every day because a business wants stability. They want to know what the policy is going to be for the next 5-10 years. That's why Congress passing stuff is a big deal. Do you see my point there where you need Congress to actually pass something for companies to adjust to it?
100%. I agree with you. And I'm not saying that, like, volatility in the market isn't good for anybody. But at the same time, with a $36 trillion debt, at some point, the check's got to bounce. Like, at some point, you can't just keep going down this road and funding nonsense stuff and printing money. At some point, you got to say, hey, we got to be either self-reliant or we got to stop. And I think most Americans know that because most Americans understand, like, we can't keep going down this road.
Well, Trump is going to pass one of the biggest tax cuts of all time. He's going to increase the debt with tax cuts. They fired a bunch of IRS agents that went after high-profile cases. That's going to decrease revenue by $400 billion. They go
after freaking mom and pops for $400.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. That's all.
No,
they
the
do.
new IRS agents were actually in a unit that went after the rich specifically. The department
are the easiest target.
Okay, asshole.
Because
listen.
You know why?
Listen. The IRS agents they hired were the ones going after rich people, or the ones they fired are going after rich people. They don't need IRS agents to go after random people with $200. They don't give a shit about them. Okay, they don't care about them. I know people that avoid taxes every year for the past 220 years. They fired IRS agents that go after rich cases. Trump is passing tax cuts to lower taxes for the top 1% in corporations. And also, we're going to collect less in tax revenue because our economy is shrinking. So if you care about the national debt, Trump is not good for the debt. Trump adds to the deficit. He's going to keep on spending. He wants a $1 trillion military budget. You cannot care about those policies and also support Trump. It does not work that way. We should move on from the economy, though.
Okay. What was your next one? Immigration. So El Salvador. Where was that one dude from?
Which one? I don't know which one you mean. Which guy?
The one the guy in the news that everyone's making a big deal about. Where was he born?
You mean Abrego Garcia?
Yeah.
He was born in El Salvador.
Okay. Where did he live?
In
for the
Maryland?
majority of his life. So, majority of his life, where did he live?
Well, he lived until 16 in El Salvador. Then he lived 13 years in the U.S., I'm pretty sure.
6 years in the U.S.
6 years? Wait, okay, one second. I might be off.
He was 30 years old. And 2019, he got arrested for human trafficking.
No, that wasn't what it was for.
he got pulled over in Tennessee for trafficking illegals from Texas up to Maryland. He had six guys in his truck, all of military age, and all of them gave his home address for where they were at.
He was here for
said,
13
yep,
years. So first thing you're wrong about, he was here 13 years. You said 6.
Well, how long has he lived in Maryland? I don't know. 6 years.
I'm not sure exactly in Maryland, but in the U.S. he was here 13 years. Let's see. He was not arrested for human trafficking. That was not the charge. Let's see.
He got for a suspended license.
Okay. There were no charges filed for that. Why was he not involved in any charges if there was a issue there?
Well, there was suspicion of it, right? He didn't get deported.
Okay. So he's never faced any charges. He has no criminal record in those 13 years he was here.
Nope. And so
he has no criminal record.
He had a deportation order, right?
Okay.
And they said, okay, but he said, I can't go back to El Salvador because of gang violence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got withholding, so he could not be deported there, right?
Yep. And he got put on a plane and he got deported there.
No. So the court in 2019, they ruled he could not be deported to El Salvador. That was the one place it was illegal to deport him to, right? In 2019, that was the withholding status he got.
Yep.
Okay, so they could not deport him there. It was illegal to send him there. Okay.
Yep. But we're talking 2025, so that's 2019.
Okay.
So what happened between 2019 and 2025? El Salvador is not what it used to be, right? So the crimes went down. He has no reason to be in the United States. He gets deported. End of story. That's where he's from. I'm sorry that you married a lady in Maryland, but
okay, wait. You're missing a critical piece of this. Okay, a critical piece of this. Okay, so when he got sent to El Salvador, it was still illegal. It was still illegal. Okay, do you agree it was illegal?
Why was it? Well, you have to tell me why it was illegal because of
from the 2019
point.
Withholding status. No, that was why it was illegal. He could not be deported to El Salvador.
Why couldn't he be deported to Why could he not be deported to El Salvador?
So the status he got would say that he's under. But okay, if you want to say El Salvador changed, it does not change anything about him being deported to El Salvador. The court ruling was still saying that.
He was a gang member, and the rival gang wanted him dead.
He escaped from the gang violence in El Salvador at 16, and he has no criminal record in 13 years, right?
I know, but he was a gang member. He didn't escape from it. The reason that he said, I cannot go back to El Salvador is because they will find me and they will kill me.
Yeah, because the story is that his father's business or whatever was trying to take his family's business and stole all of his family's money, and he tried making it to the U.S. so he could work and have a life. And if you want to say
that is not the case.
Yes, that is literally the case that we're talking about. But we're talking about Abrego Garcia, okay? When we're talking, buddy.
Garcia, that's what he said.
So it was illegal to send him to El Salvador with the 2019 court ruling, right?
Yep. Why?
Okay. Yes, because he said that he could not go back to the gang violence there, which he fled from. Yeah, that's the point.
No, it's because he was still a gang member. And the rival gang would kill him.
That's not what the immigration judge. That's not what the court ruling says at all. No, it did not. It said that he could not go back to be around the gangs because he get killed. Nope, it does not say he was a gang member. There's nothing saying in the court documents he's a gang member. No, because there were accusations and it was never confirmed that he's a gang member. It's no court documents. You can go through them right now. It does not say that. Okay, it does not say he's a gang member, or they would say that they have no proof of him being in a gang other than the picture of his hand now. They would say that. The Trump administration would literally just say he was identified as a gang member in court. The judge never found conclusive evidence. So the accusations were enough to not give him permanent status or to release him on bond in the U.S. But what happened was he got a permit, a working permit. He was here legally on a working permit from that point. He had a permit renewed every single year. He met with the offices, DHS offices, once a year to get his work permit resubmitted. And he was here legally on a work permit. Okay? Those are all facts, what I just said.
100%, and that's fine, but he's still not a citizen, so his due process ends right there.
He did not even get an immigration court. Immigration courts are extremely quick. It's not the same due process as a criminal court or for an American citizen, okay? So he did not even get an immigration court because the Trump administration literally said it was an administrative error or whatever for why they sent him to El Salvador.
Yep.
But the issue with El Salvador
100%.
as well. Okay, the issue, but it was illegal. It was illegal. It was illegal. We were paying El Salvador, and they did not deport him, right? Okay, it was illegal. It was illegal. Okay, it was illegal. It was still illegal. Okay, so when he sent to El Salvador, he was not just sent there, right? He was sent there to be in CCOT or whatever. He was there to be in the labor camp, in the torture camp, the torture prison.
Yep.
Okay, so that is not a deportation either. So first off, it was still illegal to send him to El Salvador. And second off, if you're going to send someone to a slave camp in El Salvador or whatever you want to consider that CCOT, then you need higher levels of due process versus a simple deportation. A deportation is much different under the Alien Enemies Act, which is a wartime law, is much different from a simple, that's like an abduction of someone with no due process. You need a higher standard of court to send someone to a labor camp somewhere versus deporting them to a third country or to their country of origin.
Well, why? They're not an American citizen. It doesn't matter. So let's say Bukele said, hey, I want this guy back.
So he was protected from going back to El Salvador. Still, the court ruled. The Trump DOJ ruled that he was prevented from going back to El Salvador in 2019. Trump's administration let him go. Unless if you think Trump's administration let a gang member roam in the community. Everything you're saying is not true.
Well, I mean, it's not Trump administration. It's local judges that are doing this, not Trump himself.
It was Trump's DOJ. It was Trump's DOJ in 2019. It was his DOJ.
But he didn't appoint that judge in 2019.
You don't think Trump would have used a gang member trial as any type of political fodder in 2019, and you don't think he'd bring it up now that they found that he was a gang member in court if that was actually the case, or that he admit he's a gang member in court? They would bring that up right now.
I think what happened was this guy saw a way that, hey, I can get out of this. I'm going to go to court. I'm a criminal. I know all the laws and how to get through things. I'm going to say I'm fleeing my country. I'm making money in the United States. If what I want to see happen with this is I want someone to go down there and I want them to say, are you MS-13? Because if he says no, MS-13 will kill him if he is. Because they're going to say, you betrayed us, right? He is stuck between, if he says yes, he ain't coming back to the United States. If he says no, he's dead in El Salvador, right?
The issue with this is if you put someone in the custody of a dictatorship, okay, and then anything can happen. They could literally threaten to take his life or whatever, because we don't know how to facilitate that in the U.S. We don't know, like, if we sent someone who might be innocent to a labor camp, which we sent, like...
But we also don't know how to deal with terrorist organizations either.
They are not a terrorist organization, okay, in
yes,
the gangs in the U.S.
They are fully funded.
Actually, our U.S. intel came away that the MS-13 and also Tren de Aragua was not working with the government, so they could not be classified as terrorist organizations. That's just like Trump saying that because he feels that way. But like he wants to use the Wartime Power Acts on them.
Do you ever see that girl in Houston that they cut all her limbs off of?
No, but the issue is when we use terms like terrorist, when the government uses those terms, they're looking for an excuse to expand government power and to violate rights. The same thing with the war on terror with Afghanistan and Iraq. I'm talking about WMDs.
That was terrible.
But right now, they're calling the gangs terrorists so they can use the Alien Enemies Act and the Insurrection Act because they want to expand government power. And the thing right now is due process is not even someone's rights. It's more of a limit on government powers. It's saying that if the state is going to enact violence upon someone, they need to provide evidence in a courtroom. Now, that's different from a deportation, which you go to a deportation judge. It's a quick process, which, by the way, Trump is firing deportation judges. If he wants to get more deportations, he should stop closing them down, and Doge cut a bunch of them. They should hire more judges and pass legislation through Congress, but they don't do that, right? They want to use the wartime power for a reason because they want to be more authoritarian with it and violate due process.
No, because it's the easiest way to do it right now.
No, but it's not about the
they could do
easiest
it.
way. It's about limits on government power. Our founding fathers, if you read the Declaration of Independence, if you read our Constitution, it's geared against what Trump is doing right now. That's why the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against Trump when he violates due process. So when they're like, oh, we have no way to do this, there is easily a way to do it if they wanted to. They are purposely avoiding the real way to do deportations. Whether you agree or disagree with it, they could pass laws and do actual work versus just signing executive orders and doing unilateral power. I'm just saying right now, I do not want to give the executive government more unilateral power to use state violence upon people, because how can they tell if they're going to illegally deport him when he's withheld from being deported to El Salvador? They can do that to an American citizen, and they already have detained American citizens for 10 days, 20 days. ICE has, because they do it indiscriminately. But due process is what makes you know if someone's a citizen or not a citizen, or illegal or undocumented or asylum seeking or whatever. The government needs to have restrictions on it, and I don't want Trump supporters advocating now for overwhelming government power. Everyone should have a day in court, and there's nothing to say we can't provide that.
Yep, I 100% agree with you. I 100%. That is 100%. But where was this type of thing when Biden was letting all these people in? Where was
he didn't do anything illegal, though. That's the issue. He followed asylum laws. You could disagree with the policy, and I think he did bad on the border, but also he did not violate the laws. Like, that's an easy way to say that. Like, Republicans would have easily challenged that to the Supreme Court if there was something to challenge. Like, I guarantee you.
Sure. So the person that made that mistake of him not getting his that CIS meeting or whatever it was they call it, that person should be fired. It has nothing to do with Trump.
Okay, but here's the issue, though. We have the gay barber, right? We have the professional soccer player who was taken for a Real Madrid tattoo. That person was electrically tortured by electric shock in Venezuela, escaped to America to work his ass off here. He got deported or not even deported, abducted to this slave labor camp. We have the autism awareness tattoo guy who helped. No, he's not. So he escaped Venezuela, came through a legal port of entry. There are, I guarantee you can look this up. There are dozens of people who we know are innocent, who came to America the legal way, who they mistakenly identified as gang members based off tattoos and sent them to El Salvador super prison.
You're using the asylum as a legal way to get into the United States, and it's not.
Yes, it is. That objectively is the law. If they want to change the law or not follow international law, they can change the law, but that is under the law. They came through a legal port of entry seeking asylum with a completely legitimate claim, leaving a dictatorship to come to America to work their asses off. I want people who escape dictatorships to work their asses off in America. That's how America became a damn thing. Yes, he did. The soccer player, the autism awareness tattoo guy, these are in the gay barber. You don't think they came to America to work their asses off? That's how this country was made, with great people like that left dictatorships to make countries like this great. I want people like that in America. They left dictatorships. They want to be in a free country. I want those people.
For sure. They can go and they can wait in their spot in line.
They followed the legal asylum law through legal ports of entry. They came in through legal ports of entry with the legal asylum law.
Yep. But at any time, you can get deported. So it doesn't matter if they came in with asylum or not.
Listen. They were not deported. They were sent. Listen. This is a big thing here. So these people that fled Venezuela, okay, from a dictatorship who were tortured and they fled, they were not deported, right? They were sent to El Salvador, which is not their country of origin, to be in a slave labor camp. That is not a deportation. The big government in America's power to send a person's body to El Salvador labor camps when it's not even their country of origin, just based off of the Alien Enemies Act. That is the reason the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against Trump.
Have you read that ruling?
Deportations are different. And by the way, the ruling you're talking about, what you're about to bring up, is not the one I'm talking about. There was a ruling a few days before the one you're going to talk about, which they ruled 9-0 that the Trump admin was violating due process in these proceedings. You can find that ruling as well. But are you going to bring up the one where it was 9-0, like to facilitate or whatever?
Yeah. So, but it's still a matter of the law versus what people think about the law. So, if you come in and you say, "Hey, I'm seeking asylum from a dictatorship. I'm coming to America to work my ass off." That's all good, great. You come in, they find out, "Hey, ICE picks you up. I'm sorry, but we got to get people out of the country. You drew the short straw. Time for you to go."
That's not what happened, brother.
People,
No.
Okay. People, what are you supposed to do? It's not like It's not like Trump sat at his desk with the
Okay,
thing and
buddy,
said, hey,
we have to shut this down
little
right
freaking
now.
gay
You have to
barber-
listen to this because this is authoritarian power that you are allowing in America, and we need to cut the shit out, okay? They are not saying deportations. That's a different process. That is legal. Hire more immigration judges. Hire more immigration courts. Fund those. Don't cut them like they're doing right now. But also, we are talking about them being sent to a slave labor camp, a torture camp in El Salvador with no windows in a tropic climate where they work until they are abused and killed. Okay, this is a different thing. This is worse than the death penalty. I'd rather get the death penalty than spend my entire life in CCOT. It's like we're talking about doing that. You're talking about deportations. We're talking about 20 million people. We are talking about right now, not 20 million people, which that number's off. But regardless, we're talking about people that ICE looked at their tattoos, said, "Hey, that's a gang member." Didn't follow the law at all. Okay, use autism awareness tattoos, Real Madrid tattoos, a bunch of random tattoos to send that person to a slave camp in El Salvador. A regular deportation would have been minimal compared to this. Right now, Venezuela looks like a walk in the park compared to El Salvador's ethics. It's insane that America's doing this right now.
Yep.
I don't think, but you have to stop doing this thing where you go back to a favorable argument for yourself, because this is American values we're trying to fight for. You're talking about immigration. I'm not talking about the same thing you're talking about. If you want to speed up immigration courts, do that, but don't send people to CCOT. You can still say that they're doing a really bad thing there. The Supreme Court stopped them for a reason. They brought an emergency order over the weekend to rule 7-2. I think 1 a.m. Over the weekend to say that Trump had to stop the deportations because it got so bad and the government's lying so bad. The Supreme Court, all three of Trump's appointed justices, in an emergency ruling at 1 a.m. decided to stop the administration in its tracks because they can't trust it, because they're tearing apart the Constitution so bad.
They put a pause on it and they said, we're waiting for the other court to make a ruling on it. But so if
actually, they bypassed the circuit court, I'm pretty sure. They actually bypassed the court to give the ruling. No, they did not even hear it.
If you read the full ruling, they say we're pausing until this other circuit court makes it.
Yeah, but they would have waited for administrative reasons to wait until later to vote on it. But and that's why Thomas and Alito, I'm pretty sure, or not Alito, Gorsuch. That's why Thomas and the other guy, I forgot who else it was, dissented. That's why they dissented, is because it was at late at night, but they agreed. But it's very rare for the Supreme Court to come out on the weekend at 1 a.m. to give a ruling like this. Extremely rare, because they know they can't trust this administration.
100%. This not nothing to do with the Trump administration.
Yes, it does. That's why they did emergency, because they cannot trust them.
No, it doesn't. It has.
It literally does. It explicitly does.
No,
that's what it. Yes, it does.
Nope.
That's why they did emergency instead of waiting, because they did not trust the Trump administration to stop.
They said pause.
I promise, because the Trump administration violated lower court orders already. So the Supreme Court had to come in, because the Trump administration has been violating some federal court orders left and right. So yes, that is the explicit reason they did this rushed ruling, is because of the Trump administration not listening to federal courts. Yes.
So the violation of is specific judges, right? So if, let's say, if Trump wants to turn, hey, we're going to send a warship to such and such. Does a judge come in and say, hey, no, you can't do that? That's not how America works, right?
If you're going to take someone off American streets, an American resident, and give them no due process and send them to a slave camp, then everyone knows habeas corpus, everyone knows the basic standard, but that's why they're doing this. It's not, but that's also the argument Trump made, right? No, American resident, a resident in America. Nope. Yes, it does matter, because we can't give a tourist no due process and just kill them. But no, you are arguing for a dictatorship, bro.
That's murder. That's murder. So
yes, the government is murdering people. The government is murdering people by violating rights. That's what they're doing with the CCOT people. Yes, that's what they're doing.
The guy just went down there and visited with him.
Okay, you are isolating parts of this argument that make sense to you, that go with you. I'm talking about all the other innocent people that were here seeking legal asylum. That ICE just said they were gang members. Yes. 238 people. Yes, and 25% had a criminal records. 25% had a criminal record. 25% had criminal records. And we already have the stories of a few dozen people who were innocent that were sent there.
If there was an innocent person in that group, I would agree with you, but there's not. People can say whatever they want. Their wife can come out on the news and say, my husband's great. He's made a huge adjustment in his life.
That's the point here. The United States government should not have the power to take human bodies off the street without verifying anything. And by the way, they're already detaining American citizens. They're already detaining American citizens without verifying anything at all. Literally anything. They don't know if they're an American citizen. If they're not, look up ICE taking American citizens away. Look
can
up
find
ICE detaining
anything.
American citizens mistakenly, saying that they're here
100
illegally. American citizens. Look up those stories.
100%. Yep.
I just don't know why you trust the
can find
government so
anything.
much. Why do you trust the government so
I
much? You want to take a
don't
yes, you
trust
do.
the government.
You are saying we should violate
Nope.
due process right now. Every person in America supported due process. Our founding fathers spoke that. You hate our founding fathers. You're against the concept of America. Yeah, you are.
Nope.
Objectively, you are. You're arguing against it. Yeah, you are.
So what's in your mind? If I make this argument, what's worse? 20 million. What's going to wreck America faster? In taking 20 million people that we don't know who they are, or putting 238 people in CCOT? What's worse?
The idea that the president can violate the Constitution for little to no reason, when you can't pinpoint one area in the country that has a higher crime rate from immigration, especially if you're going to say it's a national emergency and a wartime and a terrorist activity, and we're going to use the military and everyone to crack down on civil rights in America, that's going to crash the country way quicker than letting too many people in who want to do work. Yeah, the crime rate for immigrants, illegal or legal, have lower crime rates than American citizens. Nothing about them crashed our country. Nothing about them crashed our country. If you want to say it's an issue, by the way, I think the border was not good under Biden, but you can fix that easily with immigration courts. You could fix that without killing the Constitution. And they don't want to do it because they're either not hard workers, they're not good leaders, they're weak assholes, and they want to do illegal shit. They want to send people to CCOT because they think it's fun. Why are they being sent to an El Salvador prison, by the way? Why not have a prison in America? Why are they being sent to El Salvador?
Because it's too expensive.
But we're paying El Salvador what, $15 million? $15 million for 300 people? That's insane. Keep them in America. Pay Americans for it. Why are we sending money to a third world country?
That's not what they're paying.
Yeah, it is. Look up the numbers. $15 million, bro.
I've looked at it, and Bukele said it's like half of what it would cost to keep them in America.
Well, you're just gonna trust a dictator from okay, we're gonna trust El Salvador over the Constitution, bro? That's just weird that you realize you're arguing for a central American dictatorship in Central America, where Bukele himself worked with MS-13, by the way. He worked with the gangs. He just made the gangs the government. If you look up his actual track record, you're siding with El Salvador over the American Constitution. Like, what kind of position are you putting yourself in right now? Like, what is this current modern day politics doing to your brain, bro?
What is it doing to your brain?
Just think about it. Think about it.
You
are arguing for El Salvador. You're like, we should be more like El Salvador. We should be like Russia and El Salvador and violate due process.
Nope,
wow.
Nope, not at all. Not at all.
That's awesome.
I'm just saying, if illegal aliens have no constitutional rights, and so if Trump says you got to go, I'm sorry, you drew the short straw. It's time for you to go.
Actually, illegal aliens do get rights. They don't get as many rights, but they do get rights, because how can you determine if someone's illegal or not? You could just say people are illegal, then send them to El Salvador, and then once you do by accident, you could say it's a foreign policy matter, which is why they're doing El Salvador, because they want to violate the laws and find legal loopholes. That's why they're doing El Salvador, is to find legal loopholes and to get more authoritarian power. And you're okay with it, because you'll follow whatever they say.
Nope, because
you're
you know
a government
why?
lover.
Because
you love government. You'll follow any government.
You'll
listen to
government.
Federal agents.
No.
I want to give the federal agents all the power. The feds should have all the power in the world to just knock down my door and take me out and send me to El Salvador. The Fed, you trust the feds. You're on the side of the feds with no courts and no due process. You're on the side of the feds right now.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, if you have the executive branch, and that's why the founding fathers were so damn smart and set it up this way. And you have the judiciary, and you have the House, right? And executive can do, and he's encroaching. He's trying to find ways, right? That's all he's trying to do. Trying to do his job. Hey, I got to find a way to get these people out of here as quickly as possible. And they found a Aliens Enemy Act from 17, whenever it was, which I think is ridiculous. He should be able to just go round all these people up and get them out. But the judges have come in. They said, hey, no, you can't do this and you can't do this. They're working their way through it. That's how our government works.
Why are they firing immigration judges and killing immigration courts if they care about deportations and not expanding it through a bill or something, like through Congress?
Congress does nothing.
Trump could tell Congress to do this today. They could pass funding for it, but he's not doing it. Why is he not doing it? Is Trump a bad leader then? Is he just weak?
No, if he went to Congress right now and he said, hey, guys, do this, Look at the people that you have in Congress. You think any of them could? We do not have our best and brightest in Congress.
Joe Biden almost got more funding for immigration courts. Why can't Trump? This is his signature issue. Why is Trump so weak he can't do it? He controls the party. They control House, Senate, they control the Supreme Court, they control the White House. Why is Trump such a bad and weak leader that he can't get this done? This is one thing that he has somewhat of a favorable rating on.
He doesn't want to expand government.
He's literally expanding authoritarian power, like in government, through the executive branch, which is the most authoritarian thing you can do.
He's using his power that he has in his right now. If you don't like it, try to take some executive powers away from him. I don't know, but he's using his power that he has, and he's getting people out of here.
Well, he could do it legally, but he's not doing it. Why is he not funding immigration courts and working through Congress? It'll be easy for him. Even Democrats will vote for it.
Judges. There'd be more judges.
Yeah, that'd be good to have more judges. You know what? You know what? No. You know what about the American government that matters? More judges is a good thing, by the way. Having one person make decisions in the executive is bad. That's more of a king. We want more delegated government with more judges, more options for due process in the Fifth Amendment. That is the point of our country. That's why we have a segmented government with 3 branches that are co-equal. Yeah, that's the point of America. We did not want a strong executive. Our founding fathers were scared to make a president because a president could have too much power.
Are judges perfect then?
No, they're not perfect, but it's a way to limit government power. It's a way to limit authoritarian government power. Yeah, they're more anti-corrupt than just one person making decisions.
It's a way to expand it.
No, you're limiting government power because power is not within the hands of one person.
All you're doing is you're putting more
people in. Because you have a chance to present evidence. The president cannot just say, I think this person's a terrorist and get them sent to a slave labor camp in El Salvador. That's the whole point. We can have judges have a chance to present evidence.
Trump has never said that. Trump has never. You think Trump has time to go around and think, no, he's not. He's saying, hey, guys, you're a team. Figure out a way to get these people out of here. Trump doesn't have time to be dealing with people in El Salvador and people getting.
Trump literally had a picture of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but I'm just saying this is not good. You're trusting the feds, random federal agents who lie their asses off all the time. You're trusting them over judges and a courtroom where you have a chance to present evidence. You're trusting the feds,
yes,
federal agents.
Of course,
you realize you are authoritarian. You hate libertarians. You hate liberty. You love authority.
Nope.
Yeah, you do, because you don't want a delegated government where power is spread out through people from our throughout a big complicated system.
It already is.
But you're saying that Trump should not go through the legal systems. But it's not expanding power, it's delegating power. It's making the government less powerful. If you do more immigration courts, you could do it through a legal way that does not violate our Constitution. Why not just do it the legal way where you hire more immigration courts? If you want to do deportation, that expands your ability to do it.
If the Supreme Court comes back and they say Trump violated the Constitution by deporting these people, then I would say, Trump, go get his ass and bring him back here. That's not what's happened. So Trump is doing his job that every other president has done. He hasn't gained more power. He hasn't done anything. All these laws have been on the books for years.
Well, you do know the last time the Alien Enemies Act... But the Alien Enemies Act was not used since the Japanese internment camps. You know that, right? And that was not a good thing. Like, it was never used for good things. It was always used for bad things.
Oh, yep. I agree with you 100%. But at the same time, if somebody says, hey, Jolah, you got to do this job, and you're like, okay, but I need to figure out a way to do it. And, hey, there's this Enemies Act from 1762 or wherever it was from. We can use that, and we could probably get him out of here. And then a judge comes and says, no, we got to look at that. That's how America works. If they find you did nothing wrong, it goes on.
It's like you have a nail. You have to pound a nail in, and you have a hammer. You're like, this hammer's too small. Let's get a jackhammer. And you're like, I'm gonna get this nail in the wall. But you just like you destroy the entire wall instead. Like, that's what's happening. Like, there's a way to do it. You could do it in a skillful way. But you're like, I don't know. Maybe he's just too stupid. He's a bad leader. He just can't pass any laws. I don't know.
So
he has a virtue signal instead, I guess. I don't know.
If you can get it done, it gets done, and it's better for America. I don't care how it gets done, but I'm just glad that it got done.
Well, okay, here's one big economic point. So, like, our revenue from travel from foreign countries and like tourism is dropping like 20 or 30%. That'll be hundreds of billions of dollars in lost revenue for the U.S. and U.S. businesses, and also tax revenue. That's dropping because our ICE agents are beating the frick out of people. They're detaining tourists at a higher rate. They're detaining American citizens. It's becoming a more hostile place to visit because ICE agents have zero leash as a direct result of the Trump admin. So, like, that being a hostile environment, and the U.S. being known as a country globally that does not follow laws because Trump has been defying federal court orders and maybe even Supreme Court orders. We're going to see this week, maybe next week, in the discovery period, if they can, fix some of these issues. I doubt they will, considering they're going with the tariffs thing. But like the other countries are not trusting the U.S. And we're losing global access to markets, less tourism, and also like the EU right now, they're sending their people to the U.S. with burner phones now. Usually, you send people to countries that are authoritarian, like China or Russia, with burner phones. The U.S. used to be fine for personal phones. Now they're sending us, burner phones with their people. The U.S. globally, for the reasons I'm talking about, is becoming less trusted. And I guarantee you, that's why the dollar is losing strength. That's why our bond market's messed up. America is going to fall from this stuff. And if we don't follow laws, if we don't do things in a skillful way that actually makes sense, if we don't work through our actual institutions with checks and balances, America's not going to be trusted anymore. Because if we're going to have more of a dictatorship that's focused on executive power only, China's much more stable than we are. They're a manufacturing juggernaut. They have more high skilled. They have larger pools of high skilled labor and medium skilled labor. We're not in a good place. I just we'll see in the next few months. I appreciate the call, but I just don't think this is going a good direction.
Perfect. All right. Take it easy.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Yep. Bye.